The Great Hall of Nexus Prime had never seen such fear. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their floating chairs, their voices hushed and nervous. The emergency meeting had been called by the oldest species in known space, and when the Vorthak spoke, everyone listened. Admiral Zephex of the Krillian Empire shifted in his mechanical suit, annoyed by the delay. His red eyes glowed as he watched the crystal beings whisper among themselves. The Krillians had places to be, worlds to conquer. This meeting felt like a waste of time. "The matter is urgent," said Elder Vorthak, his crystalline form shimmering blue in the station's light. "We must discuss the planet you call Earth." Zephex snorted, a sound that came out as static through his translator. "A primitive world in Sector 7G? What about it?" The Elder's light dimmed. "You must not go there. No one must go there." Around the hall, other species began to murmur. The ghostly Mindari floated closer, their translucent forms rippling with concern. Even the machine-like Synthos seemed agitated, their optical sensors flashing yellow warning lights. "We have watched that world for thousands of your years," continued the Elder. "The beings there call themselves humans. They appear weak, but this is not truth." Zephex laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the hall. "Weak? We have observed them too. They barely leave their own planet. Their ships use chemical fuel. They fight each other with metal projectiles. How can such primitives be dangerous?" A Mindari drifted forward, its voice like wind through empty spaces. "Appearance deceives. We have sent scouts to observe them. Few returned. Those who did spoke of strange things before their minds broke." "What strange things?" asked a delegate from the peaceful Kepler Union. The Mindari's form flickered. "Humans who knew things they should not know. Technology hidden where it should not exist. Questions that seemed innocent but revealed too much knowledge." Zephex stood, his mechanical legs clicking on the floor. "This is nonsense. Fear from species too weak to expand their territory. The Krillian Empire has conquered 17 star systems in 10 cycles. We do not fear primitives." The Elder's light pulsed brighter. "Listen carefully, young Admiral. Your empire is strong, yes, your weapons are powerful. Your ships are fast, but humans are not what they seem." "Then what are they?" Zephex demanded. The hall fell silent. The Elder's crystal form began to glow, with ancient light, and when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of millennia. "They are hunters," he said simply. "The greatest hunters in the galaxy. Their world is not a home. It is a trap." The other species in the hall began talking at once. Some agreed with the Elder, sharing their own stories of strange encounters near Earth. Others, like the aggressive Draktar, dismissed the warnings as cowardice. "Proof," demanded Zephex. "Show us proof of this threat." The Elder was quiet for a long moment. Then he activated a holographic display in the center of the hall. Images appeared, ships approaching Earth, making contact with humans, establishing trade or conquest plans. Then the ships would leave, heading back to their homeworlds. After that, silence. 43 expeditions, said the Elder. 43 different species. All made contact with Earth. All returned home safely. Within one cycle, their homeworlds went dark. The hall erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted questions, demanded explanations, called for investigations. But Zephex remained calm, studying the data with military precision. "Correlation is not causation," he said when the noise died down. "These worlds could have fallen to any number of threats. Space plague, civil war, resource depletion." "All 43? asked the Elder. "All within one cycle of Earth contact? All with no distress signals, no survivors, no explanation?" Zephex's optical sensors focused on the data. "Even if this is connected to Earth, it proves nothing about human military capabilities. Perhaps they carry a disease that affects other species. Perhaps they have allies who protect them. The Krillian Empire has protocols for biological and political threats." A new voice entered the conversation. Dr. Hella of the Scientific Kepler Union spoke quietly, but her words carried across the hall. "We analyzed the pattern," she said. "The civilizations that fell were not random. They were selected. Each had, Specific technologies, specific resources, specific knowledge that would be valuable to a developing spacefaring civilization. Selected how? Asked a Draktar representative. Each species discovered Earth differently, Dr. Hella explained. Some found it during routine exploration. Others detected human radio signals. Some were led there by ancient star charts. But when we traced back the circumstances, we found subtle manipulations, course corrections suggested by helpful traders, star charts with small but significant errors, radio signals broadcast at just the right time and frequency to be noticed. The implications hit the hall like a plasma blast. If Dr. Hella was right, then Earth wasn't just a dangerous world. It was actively hunting other civilizations. Impossible, said Zephex, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. Primitives cannot manipulate galactic civilization on that scale. The Elder's light dimmed to almost nothing. That is what every expedition leader said. That is what every admiral believed. That is why they are all dead. What do you propose? Asked the Kepler delegate. That we quarantine an entire star system? That we forbid contact with a developing species? We propose you remember history, said the Elder. Long ago, before most of your species reached the stars, there were others, the predecessors. They left warnings about certain worlds, certain species that should not be contacted. Earth was one of them. This was new information. The predecessors were legend, a civilization so advanced they had supposedly transcended physical existence. Their ruins were found throughout the galaxy, but their records were mostly destroyed or incomprehensible. You have predecessor records about Earth? Asked Dr. Hella, leaning forward. Fragments, admitted the Elder. Warnings about apex predators disguised as prey. Instructions to observe but never contact. Protocols for containment that we no longer understand. Zephex had heard enough. He stood again, his mechanical frame towering over the other delegates. The Krillian Empire does not cower behind ancient warnings and unproven theories, he declared. If Earth is truly dangerous, then it must be neutralized. If humans are as primitive as they appear, then they will become useful vassals. Either way, the Empire gains. Admiral, please reconsider, pleaded the Elder. We have lost too many species to human deception already. Deception? Zephex's laugh was cold and mechanical. You speak of humans as if they are master manipulators, yet your own evidence shows them as barely space-capable. Which is it? Are they primitive or advanced, weak or strong? You cannot have both. The Elder's crystal form pulsed slowly, sadly. That is exactly what makes them so dangerous. They are both. And neither. They are whatever they need to be, until it is too late. But Zephex was already walking toward the exit, his heavy footsteps echoing in the hall. His mind was made up. The Krillian warfleet would depart within the day. Earth would fall within a week. Behind him, the Elder whispered to the remaining delegates, another species will be lost. Another predator will feed. And still, the galaxy does not learn. As the emergency session dissolved into worried conversations and frantic planning, Admiral Zephex boarded his shuttle and set course for the Krillian fleet. In his mind, he was already planning the invasion of Earth, already dividing its resources among his officers, already composing his victory report to the Empire. He never noticed the small human observation probe that had been recording the entire meeting from its hiding place in Nexus Prime's superstructure. He never saw it detach and begin the long journey back to Earth. On a small blue planet in Sector 7G, someone was waiting for his call. The Krillian warfleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a storm of metal and fire. 200 ships strong, bristling with plasma cannons and energy shields. They were the pride of the Empire. Admiral Zephex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on his screens. Initial scans complete, Admiral, reported his weapons officer. The planet shows expected technological development. Nuclear weapons, chemical rockets, primitive satellites. No sign of energy shields or advanced propulsion. Zephex nodded, satisfied. Any response to our arrival? Multiple radio transmissions, sir. They appear to be attempting communication, also detecting increased military activity on the surface. Their crewed aircraft are scrambling to intercept. The Admiral almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Put their communications through the translator. The bridge speakers crackled to life with human voices. Fear, confusion, and desperate attempts at diplomacy filled the air. Government leaders pleaded for peaceful contact. Military commanders demanded identification. Scientists begged for the chance to learn from advanced civilization. Pathetic, muttered the weapons officer. Zefex raised a mechanical hand for silence. One voice had caught his attention. A calm, female human speaking with unusual composure. This is Dr. Sarah Chen of the United Nations First Contact Committee. We welcome you to our solar system and hope for peaceful relations between our species. First Contact Committee? Zefex's optical sensors focused on the communication station. They have a committee for first contact? His communications officer shrugged. Many primitive species fantasize about meeting aliens, sir. They probably formed it after detecting our approach. But something about the human's voice bothered Zefex. Too calm, too prepared. Most species panicked when faced with an invasion fleet. Yet this Dr. Chen sounded like she was greeting expected guests. Begin the assault, he ordered, pushing the thought aside. Target their military installations first. Leave their cities intact until they surrender. The first wave of Krillian fighters screamed through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. Human interceptors rose to meet them, their primitive missiles and bullets bouncing harmlessly off energy shields. The battle was over in minutes. Ground forces landed in major cities around the planet. New York, London, Moscow, Beijing, all fell within hours. Human armies fought bravely but uselessly against plasma weapons and powered armor. The resistance was exactly what Zefex had expected from a primitive species. Too exactly, perhaps. By the end of the first day, major population centers were under Krillian control. The Admiral established his command center in what the humans called Geneva, taking over their United Nations building. It seemed fitting. He would rule their world from their own symbol of unity. Dr. Sarah Chen arrived for the surrender ceremony, exactly on time. She was a small woman with dark hair and intelligent eyes, wearing simple clothes that looked more like a uniform than civilian dress. She walked into the occupied building without fear, flanked by other human officials who seemed remarkably calm for a conquered species. Admiral Zefex, she said, bowing slightly. We are honored by your presence. The translation software made her words sound respectful, but Zefex detected something else in her tone. Not quite mockery, but not quite sincerity either. I am here to accept your unconditional surrender, he said, his mechanical voice echoing in the assembly hall. Of course, Dr. Chen replied. Earth formally surrenders to the Krillian Empire. We place ourselves under your protection and guidance. Protection? Zefex found the word choice interesting. Most conquered species spoke of occupation or domination. This human made it sound like a mutual agreement. The surrender documents were surprisingly detailed. Where most primitive species offered simple submission, humans had prepared complex agreements covering resource allocation, population management, and technological exchange. They asked many questions about Krillian government structure, military organization, and territorial holdings. You seem very organized for primitives, Zefex observed. Dr. Chen smiled. We have always been good at adapting to new situations, Admiral. It is how our species survived. Over the following weeks, Zefex found himself both impressed and disturbed by human efficiency. They integrated into the occupation structure seamlessly, providing everything from translators to technical advisors. Human scientists were particularly eager to learn about Krillian technology, asking endless questions about energy weapons, faster-than-light travel, and defensive systems. They learn quickly, reported his science officer. Almost too quickly. Some of their questions show understanding of principles they should not know. Zefex dismissed the concerns. Intelligence is not unique to advanced species. Use their curiosity. The more they understand our superiority, the less likely they are to rebel. But small things continued to bother him. Human workers repaired battle damage with unusual skill, often improving the original design. Their communication, networks which should have been primitive, carried encrypted signals that his analysts could not break. Most disturbing, human officials seemed to know things about the Krillian Empire that they should not know. During one meeting, Dr. Chen casually mentioned the Krillian colony on Vega Prime, including details about its mining operations that were classified military information. When questioned, she claimed the information came from analyzing captured Krillian equipment. "Your technical manuals are quite detailed," she said with that same slight smile. Zephex had his technical staff review their equipment. All manuals were written in Krillian script, which humans supposedly could not read. Yet somehow they had extracted classified information from devices that should have been incomprehensible to primitives. More troubling reports began reaching his desk. Krillian soldiers complained of feeling watched, even when alone. Several reported seeing the same human faces in different cities, as if some humans were traveling faster than should be possible with their primitive transportation. Supply shipments occasionally went missing for hours, only to reappear exactly where they should be but with subtle signs of examination. "Perhaps we should be more careful about human access to our facilities," suggested his security chief. "They are primitives." "Under occupation," Zephex replied, but his voice lacked conviction. What could they possibly do? The question was answered 3 months later when Patrol Unit 7 failed to report for duty. 12 Krillian soldiers had simply vanished during a routine sweep of abandoned buildings. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no distress signals. Their equipment was found neatly stacked in an empty warehouse, as if they had carefully removed it before disappearing. Dr. Chen expressed appropriate concern when informed of the missing soldiers. Perhaps they deserted. Being far from home can be difficult for military personnel. "Krillian soldiers do not desert," Zephex said coldly. "Of course not," Dr. Chen agreed. "Then perhaps they encountered some local hazard. Earth can be dangerous for those unfamiliar with it." The way she said it made Zephex's optical sensors focus sharply on her face. There was something in her expression, a fleeting look that reminded him of a predator watching prey walk into a trap. "What kind of hazards?" he asked. "Oh, the usual things," Dr. Chen said casually. "Unstable buildings, toxic waste, wild animals. We have been meaning to provide better safety briefings for your forces. More patrols went missing over the following weeks. Always small groups, always in remote locations, always without any evidence of what happened to them." The human authorities were extremely helpful, providing search teams and detailed maps of dangerous areas. But the missing soldiers were never found. Zephex began to suspect sabotage, but his security sweeps found nothing. Human cooperation seemed genuine, their surrender complete. Yet Krillian soldiers continued to vanish. The breaking point came when he decided to investigate personally. Taking a small escort, he visited the last known location of the most recent missing patrol. It was an abandoned factory complex on the outskirts of what humans called Detroit. What he found there changed everything. Hidden beneath the factory floor was a chamber filled with technology that should not exist. Weapons that could punch through Krillian armor, computers analyzing captured Krillian equipment, and most shocking of all, detailed files on 17 different alien species, including complete technical specifications for their military forces. As he stared at the impossible evidence, footsteps echoed behind him. Dr. Sarah Chen emerged from the shadows, but she was no longer the humble diplomat who had signed surrender documents. Her posture was different, confident, and predatory. Her clothes were no longer simple civilian dress, but some kind of advanced tactical gear. "Hello, Admiral," she said, her voice carrying no trace of subservience. "We have been waiting for you to find this place." Zephex reached for his weapon, but found his mechanical limbs responding slowly. Some kind of interference field was affecting his systems. "What is this?" he demanded. Dr. Chen smiled, and for the first time, it reached her eyes. "This, Admiral Zephex, is what we call a reality check." Admiral Zephex tried to move his mechanical limbs, but they responded like he was walking through thick liquid. The interference field around him pulsed with energy he did not recognize. Dr. Sarah Chen walked closer, her footsteps echoing in the hidden chamber beneath the abandoned factory. "I do not understand," Zefek said, his voice distorted by the field affecting his systems. "You surrendered. Your species submitted to the Empire." Dr. Chen laughed, a sound that was neither cruel nor kind, but something far more unsettling. "Did we? Or did we simply give you what you expected to see?" She gestured around the chamber, and Zefek's optical sensors automatically focused on the details. The walls were lined with screens showing star charts of the entire Krillian Empire. Technical displays analyzed Krillian weapons, ships, and military tactics with precision that rivaled his own command computers. In one corner, Krillian weapons had been disassembled and rebuilt with modifications that made them significantly more powerful. "This technology," Zefek said slowly. "This is impossible. Our scans showed primitive development. Your scans showed exactly what we wanted them to show," Dr. Chen replied. "Do you really think a species that survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, and its own attempts at self-destruction would be helpless against visitors from space?" She touched a control panel, and the chamber's walls became transparent. Beyond them, Zefek could see a vast underground complex stretching for kilometers. Humans moved through corridors filled with technology that made Krillian equipment look primitive. Ships hung in massive bays, their designs incorporating features from dozens of different alien civilizations. "Welcome to Subterra Detroit, Admiral, one of 47 similar facilities around the planet." Zefek's mind processed the implications with military efficiency. "You have been planning this. How long?" "Planning what? Your invasion?" Dr. Chen shook her head. "Admiral, we have been planning for invasion since before your species learned to make fire. The Krillian Empire is just the latest in a very long line of guests." She activated another display, showing a timeline that stretched back thousands of years. Species names scrolled past, civilizations that Zefek recognized from historical records as mysterious disappearances or unexplained collapses. "The hegemony of Altair," Dr. Chen said, pointing to an entry. "Conquered 43 worlds before they discovered Earth. Very aggressive, much like yourselves. They invaded us about 800 years ago." "Impossible. The Altair hegemony fell to internal rebellion." "Did they?" Dr. Chen's smile was patient, like a teacher correcting a slow student. "Or did they make the same mistake you made? Did they assume that a species that appeared primitive was actually helpless?" Zefek stared at the timeline. According to this data, 17 different civilizations had attempted to conquer Earth over the past 2 millennia. All had fallen within years of making contact. "You are claiming that humans destroyed the greatest empires in galactic history? Destroyed? Such an ugly word." Dr. Chen looked thoughtful. "We prefer to think of it as teaching. Each species that comes to Earth teaches us something new. Military tactics, technology, the locations of other worlds. In return, we teach them why Earth is such a dangerous place to visit." The timeline showed more than just invasions. Trade missions, exploration expeditions, diplomatic contacts, all had resulted in the eventual downfall of the civilizations involved. The pattern was always the same. Contact with Earth, followed by a period of apparent normalcy, then sudden collapse. "The pattern varies depending on the species," Dr. Chen explained, as if reading his thoughts. "Aggressive civilizations like yours tend to invade, which makes the teaching process more direct. Peaceful species usually try to trade or explore, which requires more subtle lessons. What happened to my soldiers?" "They are learning," Dr. Chen said simply. "Human culture, human history, human capabilities. Some adapt well to the education process. Others find it challenging." Zefek felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Not the tactical concern of facing superior weapons, but the deeper terror of realizing he had been prey all along. "Why?" he asked. "Why do you do this?" Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment, studying his mechanical form with the same scientific interest his people showed when examining new technology. "Because we have to," she said finally. "Admiral, Your species conquered 17 star systems. Do you know what happened to the native species on those worlds? ZFX's systems automatically accessed the relevant files. Standard colonization protocols. Primitive species were relocated or integrated as labor forces. Advanced species were offered vassal status. Relocated where? Integrated how? And what happened to those who refused vassal status? The files provided answers that ZFX had never questioned before. Relocation to resource-poor worlds where most species eventually died out. Integration that was barely disguised slavery. Vassal status that meant total submission or extinction. We are not unique in the galaxy for our aggressive tendencies. Dr. Chen continued. Most spacefaring civilizations expand through conquest. They take what they want and destroy or enslave what they do not need. It is the standard pattern. Then why have you not expanded? Why do you remain on one world? Who says we have remained on one world? Dr. Chen touched another control, and the display changed to show current galactic civilization. Red dots marked the territories of major powers like the Krillian Empire, but scattered throughout the galaxy were blue dots, worlds that showed no obvious signs of advanced civilization, but maintained hidden observation posts. We have been expanding for millennia, Admiral. We just do it differently. Instead of conquering worlds, we watch them. Instead of demanding tribute, we learn from them. And when aggressive species threaten the balance of galactic civilization, we intervene. The scope of it was staggering. Humans were not primitives trapped on one world. They were observers scattered throughout the galaxy, monitoring dozens of civilizations, cataloging their strengths and weaknesses. You are parasites, ZFX said. You feed on other civilizations. Are we? Dr. Chen seemed genuinely curious about his perspective. We take knowledge, yes, but we also provide services. Do you know why the peaceful Kepler Union has never been invaded by aggressive neighbors? Why the ancient Vorthak have been left alone to pursue their philosophical studies? Why trade routes remain stable despite the ambitions of various empires? The car. Implications hit ZFX like a plasma bolt. Every galactic conflict that had mysteriously ended in stalemate, every aggressive empire that had suddenly collapsed for unknown reasons, every peaceful civilization that had survived against impossible odds. You have been manipulating galactic civilization for millennia. Guiding, Dr. Chen corrected. Protecting peaceful species from aggressive ones, ensuring that no single empire grows large enough to threaten the balance, maintaining stability. By destroying any species that becomes too powerful, by teaching them that there are consequences for aggression. Her voice remained calm, but ZFX detected steel beneath the diplomatic tone. The Krillian Empire has killed billions of sentient beings in your expansion. You enslave entire species. You strip worlds of resources without regard for native ecosystems. Did you think such behavior would go unnoticed forever? ZFX's tactical programming tried to analyze the situation, looking for weaknesses or escape routes, but every analysis led to the same conclusion. He was completely outmatched by a species that had been studying galactic warfare for longer than his civilization had existed. What happens now? He asked. Now you learn, Dr. Chen said. Your invasion fleet will return to Krillian space with news of their successful conquest of Earth. They will report that humans make excellent vassals, eager to serve the Empire. Your government will be pleased with the easy victory. And then human advisors will begin arriving at Krillian worlds, offering technological assistance and cultural exchange. Human traders will establish commercial relationships. Human diplomats will negotiate agreements that seem favorable to the Empire. ZFX understood, the same pattern that had been followed with 17 other aggressive civilizations. Infiltration, disguised as cooperation, study disguised as service, preparation disguised as friendship. How long do we have? Dr. Chen consulted a device on her wrist. Based on historical patterns and the specific characteristics of Krillian civilization, approximately 2 years before your government realizes something is wrong, another 6 months before they understand the true scope of the situation. After that, she shrugged, a gesture that somehow managed to convey both regret and inevitability. The choice will be yours, Admiral. adapt to a new way of existing in the galaxy, or go the way of the Altair hegemony. As if summoned by her words, other humans began entering the chamber. They moved with confidence and purpose that spoke of military training far more advanced than anything Zephex had observed. During the invasion, their equipment was clearly superior to Krillian technology, incorporating design elements from multiple alien civilizations. "Your education begins now, Admiral," Dr. Chen said. "We have much to teach you about the real nature of galactic civilization, and you have much to teach us about Krillian military capabilities." Zephex's optical sensors dimmed as additional interference fields activated around him. His last coherent thought before the teaching process began was a question that Y Commander Draxtok stood on the bridge of the Krillian flagship, Iron Dominion, watching the hyperspace display with growing concern. The invasion fleet sent to Earth should have reported back 3 weeks ago. Admiral Zephex was many things, but he was never late with his reports. Still no communication from the Earth expedition? Draxtok asked his communications officer. "Nothing, sir. Last transmission was their arrival at the target system." Since then, complete silence. Draxtok's mechanical fingers tapped against his command console. 40,000 soldiers, 200 ships, and one of the Empire's most experienced admirals had simply vanished. There were protocols for this situation. "Prepare the Second Fleet for immediate deployment to Earth," he ordered. "Full war configuration. Whatever happened to Admiral Zephex, we will be ready for it." The Second Fleet was even larger than the first. 300 ships carrying 60,000 of the Empire's elite soldiers. If humans had somehow destroyed the invasion force, they would learn the true power of the Krillian Empire. The journey to Earth took 8 days. During the trip, Draxtok studied every piece of intelligence they had on the human species. Primitive technology, divided governments, limited space capability. Nothing in the data suggested they could threaten a Krillian battle group, much less destroy an entire invasion fleet. "Approaching Earth system, sir," reported the navigation officer. "Full tactical scan," Draxtok ordered. "I want to know what happened to our forces." The scan results were puzzling. Earth appeared unchanged from their previous observations. The same energy signatures, the same primitive technology, the same divided governments broadcasting their crude radio signals. There was no sign of Admiral Zephex's fleet. "Detecting debris field in the outer system," reported the sensor officer. "Krillian hull composition." Draxtok felt his optical sensors focus sharply. "Show me." The main display revealed scattered metal fragments drifting near the system's edge. Analysis confirmed they were pieces of Krillian ships, but the damage patterns were strange. No blast marks from energy weapons, no signs of explosive decompression. The metal had been cut with precision that suggested extremely advanced technology. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "receiving transmission from Earth. Same frequency Admiral Zephex would have used." "Put it through." Admiral Zephex's voice filled the bridge, calm and professional. "High Commander Draxtok, this is Admiral Zephex reporting successful completion of Earth occupation. Human resistance was minimal. The planet is now fully under Imperial control." Draxtok stared at the communication console. Zephex sounded normal, but something was wrong. The Admiral's reports were usually detailed, full of tactical analysis and casualty counts. This was too brief, too simple. "Admiral, explain the debris field in the outer system." "Minor engagement with primitive human defense satellites. Nothing significant. The invasion proceeded exactly as planned. Casualties? Minimal. Human technology proved inadequate against Imperial forces." Draxtok's suspicion deepened. Zephex never described anything as minimal or adequate. The Admiral was obsessed with precise numbers and detailed analysis. "Request: immediate tactical debrief, Admiral. Prepare for Fleet Commander inspection." There was a pause before Zephex replied. "Of course, High Commander. Landing coordinates will be transmitted shortly." The coordinates arrived within minutes, directing the fleet to the same landing zones the first invasion had used. Draxtok ordered a full tactical deployment with heavy support and multiple backup positions. Whatever had happened to the real Admiral Zephex, he would not make the same mistake. The Second Fleet entered Earth's atmosphere in perfect formation, energy shields at maximum, weapons charged and ready. The landing proceeded smoothly, with no sign of resistance from human forces. Local military units were withdrawn, and government officials waited to meet with Imperial representatives. Admiral Zefex greeted Draxtalk at the landing site, flanked by his senior officers. Everything appeared normal. The Admiral looked the same, spoke the same, carried himself with the same military bearing. But Draxtalk noticed small differences. Zefex's movements were slightly too smooth, his responses slightly too quick. Most tellingly, he showed no sign of the battle damage that should have marked any Krillian officer after weeks of occupation duty. "Admiral," Draxtalk said formally, "report on the status of occupation forces. All units are performing admirably. High Commander, human cooperation has exceeded expectations. We have established full control over major population centers and resource extraction points." The words were right, but the tone was wrong. Zefex sounded like he was reading from a script. "Show me the command center," Draxtalk ordered. They were led to the United Nations building in Geneva, which had supposedly been converted into Imperial headquarters. The facility looked appropriately modified, with Krillian technology integrated into human structures. But again, small details were wrong. The modifications were too clean, too perfect. Real military installations were always marked by improvisation and field repairs. The breaking point came when Draxtalk requested a private meeting with his old colleague. Alone in what was supposedly Admiral Zefex's personal quarters, he asked a simple question. "Tell me about the Vorthak warning." The figure wearing Zefex's face paused for just a moment too long. "What warning, High Commander?" Draxtalk's hand moved to his weapon. The real Admiral Zefex had been obsessed with the Vorthak Elder's statements at Nexus Prime. He had quoted them repeatedly during the journey to Earth, analyzing every word for hidden meanings. "You are not Admiral Zefex," Draxtalk said quietly. The figure smiled, and the expression was completely wrong on Zefex's face. Too warm, too knowing, too human. "Very perceptive, High Commander. We wondered how long it would take you to notice. You." False Admiral's form began to shift and change. The mechanical components dissolved, revealing a human woman underneath. Her features were pleasant but unremarkable, the kind of face that would be forgotten in a crowd. Except for her eyes, which held intelligence far older than her apparent age. "Who are you?" Draxtalk demanded. "Dr. Sarah Chen, though that name is just one of many I have used. I was the primary contact during your Admiral's education process." "Where is the real Admiral Zefex?" "Learning," she said simply. "Along with the rest of your invasion force. They are discovering many interesting things about the true nature of galactic civilization." Draxtalk's tactical training kicked in automatically. He was outnumbered on hostile ground with compromised intelligence. The correct response was immediate retreat and regrouping. He activated his emergency beacon, sending a coded signal to the fleet in orbit. "All units, immediate withdrawal. Maximum priority." Dr. Chen looked sad. "I am afraid that will not be possible, High Commander." The building around them began to change. Walls that had appeared to be simple human construction revealed themselves as sophisticated containment systems. Energy fields activated, blocking all communication with the orbiting fleet. "Your ships are already being dealt with," Dr. Chen explained. "We have been preparing for your arrival since the moment your first fleet entered our system." Through the facility's windows, Draxtalk could see lights moving in the sky. But they were not the lights of his fleet's energy weapons. They were moving, in patterns that suggested ships far larger and more advanced than anything in the Krillian arsenal. "Impossible," he said. "Our sensors detected no advanced technology in this system." "Your sensors detected exactly what we wanted them to detect," Dr. Chen replied. "High Commander, your species has spent generations perfecting the art of conquest, but humans have spent millennia perfecting the art of deception." The truth hit Draxtalk with devastating clarity. Earth was not a primitive world that had somehow gained access to advanced weapons. It was an advanced civilization that had been disguising itself as primitive. The entire human species was an elaborate trap designed to lure aggressive civilizations into a false sense of security. The debris field, he said. That was not from battle damage. Material samples, Dr. Chen confirmed. We needed to analyze Krillian hull composition and weapons technology before your second fleet arrived. Your admiral was very helpful in providing technical specifications. Draxtalk thought of his fleet in orbit. 60,000 soldiers who believed they were dealing with primitives. They would be completely unprepared for what was coming. This is war, he said. Dr. Chen shook her head. No, High Commander. War implies two sides with relatively equal capability. What is happening to your fleet is education. They are learning the same lesson that 42 other aggressive civilizations have learned before them. The lights in the sky were growing brighter, and Draxtalk could now see their true nature. Human ships, massive and sleek, rising from hiding places throughout the solar system. Ships that dwarfed his largest dreadnoughts, armed with weapons that made Krillian plasma cannons look like primitive projectile weapons. His fleet never had a chance. The engagement lasted less than an hour. Krillian shields designed to withstand the most powerful known weapons were penetrated like they were made of paper. Krillian ships, pride of the Empire's engineering corps, were disabled and captured with surgical precision. Not destroyed, captured. Every ship, The emergency session at Nexus Prime was different this time. Where before there had been fearful whispers about Earth, now there was terrified silence about the Krillian Empire. In less than 6 months, one of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations had simply stopped communicating with the outside galaxy. Elder Vorthak's crystalline form pulsed with dim, sad light as he addressed the assembled delegates. His ancient voice carried the weight of prophecy fulfilled. We tried to warn them, he said simply. As we have tried to warn others, as the predecessors tried to warn us, long ago. The Kepler Union's representative, Dr. Hella, leaned forward, in her floating chair. What exactly happened to the Krillians? Our long-range sensors detected massive fleet movements toward Earth, then nothing. The same thing that happened to the Altair hegemony, replied the Elder, and the Thanatos Collective before them, and the Iron Federation before them. A new voice entered the conversation. The chamber's main communication array activated and a holographic figure appeared at the center of the assembly. It was a human woman, pleasant-looking and unremarkable except for eyes that seemed far older than her face. Hello, she said with a slight smile. I am Dr. Sarah Chen, representing Earth's diplomatic corps. I believe you have questions about recent events involving the Krillian Empire. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted questions, demanded explanations, called for security measures. The Draktar representative actually drew a weapon before realizing how useless it would be against a holographic projection. Dr. Chen waited patiently for the noise to die down. When silence finally returned, she continued as if nothing had happened. I want to begin by addressing your primary concern. The Krillian Empire has not been destroyed. Their civilization continues to exist. Their people are unharmed. Their worlds remain inhabited. Then where are they? Demanded the Draktar delegate. Why have they stopped all communication? They are learning, Dr. Chen replied. Learning about their place in a larger galactic community. Learning about the consequences of aggressive expansion. Learning about the benefits of cooperation over conquest. Elder Vorthak's light pulsed brighter. You have done to them what you did to the others. We have offered them the same choice we offer everyone, Dr. Chen said. Adapt to a sustainable way of existing in the galaxy, or continue the path that leads to self-destruction. Dr. Hella's scientific mind focused on the implications. You have been manipulating galactic civilization for millennia. Every major empire that has fallen. Every peaceful species that has survived against odds. Every balance of power that has maintained stability. Guiding, Dr. Chen corrected gently. Not manipulating. We do not force choices upon anyone. We simply ensure that choices have appropriate consequences. The Mindari delegate drifted closer, its translucent form rippling with confusion. But your species appears primitive. Your technology seems limited. How can you claim such power? Dr. Chen's smile widened slightly. Appearances can be deceiving, can they not? Tell me, what would you do if you encountered a species that was clearly more advanced than your own? Study them, Dr. Hella answered automatically. Learn from them. Establish peaceful contact. And if you encountered a species that seemed primitive and helpless? The uncomfortable silence that followed provided the answer. Most galactic civilizations would either ignore such a species or attempt to exploit them. Earth serves as a test, Dr. Chen explained. A measure of character for species that achieve interstellar capability. Those who approach us peacefully find trading partners and allies. Those who attempt conquest find teachers. She gestured, and the holographic display changed to show a map of the galaxy. Peaceful civilizations were marked in blue, aggressive empires in red, and scattered throughout both were small green dots. Human observation posts, she said. We have been watching galactic civilization develop for 3,000 years, studying, learning, preparing for the day when species would be ready for true cooperation. The scope of it was staggering. Humans had not remained isolated on Earth. They had spread throughout the galaxy as observers, cataloging the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations, intervening when necessary to maintain balance. The Kepler Union, Dr. Chen continued, has never been invaded by aggressive neighbors because certain trade routes became unreliable whenever hostile fleets approached their territory. The Vorthak have been left to pursue their studies because aggressive species that threatened them experienced mysterious equipment failures. The Mindari exploration fleets have found safe passage through dangerous regions because someone has been clearing obstacles from their path. Each revelation hit the assembled delegates like a plasma blast. The stable galactic civilization they knew, the delicate balance between peaceful and aggressive species, the inexplicable survival of weaker civilizations against stronger ones, all had been carefully maintained by a species that most believed to be primitive. Why? Asked the elder, his ancient voice heavy with centuries of wonder and fear. Why do this? What do humans gain from guiding galactic civilization? Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment, her expression distant. Because we remember what it was like to be alone. For millions of years, humans were the only intelligent species we knew. We wondered if intelligence was common in the universe, or if we were unique. When we finally detected other civilizations, we were overjoyed. Her expression darkened. Then we observed how those civilizations behaved, how they conquered and enslaved weaker species, how they strip-mined worlds without regard for native life, how they treated intelligence as something to be dominated rather than celebrated. The chamber listened in fascination as Dr. Chen continued. We realized that intelligence was indeed common in the universe, but wisdom was rare. Most species that achieved interstellar capability used it to repeat the same patterns of aggression and exploitation that had marked their planetary development. So you appointed yourselves guardians of the galaxy? The Draktar delegate's voice carried skepticism and challenge. We appointed ourselves teachers, Dr. Chen corrected. The galaxy is vast enough for countless civilizations to thrive. Resources are abundant enough to support trillions of beings. There is no need for the endless cycle of conquest and dominance that has marked galactic history. She gestured again, and the display showed the true scope of human influence. Trade routes that mysteriously favored peaceful species. Aggressive empires that suffered convenient technical failures at crucial moments. Resources that became available to species that needed them, while becoming scarce for those who would abuse them. We do not rule the galaxy, Dr. Chen said. We garden it. We create conditions where peaceful civilizations can flourish and aggressive ones learn the costs of their choices. And species that refuse to learn, asked Dr. Hella, are given more intensive education opportunities, Dr. Chen replied. The Krillian Empire, for example, is currently discovering the benefits of sustainable development and cooperative resource sharing. It may take several generations, but we are patient. The implications were clear. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through military force. They had conquered it through intelligence, patience, and an understanding of galactic psychology that spanned millennia. They were the ultimate apex predators, not because they were the strongest, but because they were the smartest. "What happens now?" asked the elder. "What do you want from us?" Dr. Chen's expression softened, showing genuine warmth for the first time in the conversation. "We want what we have always wanted, a galaxy where intelligence is celebrated rather than exploited, where different species learn from each other rather than dominating each other, where the vast resources of space are used to create prosperity rather than fund endless wars. And if we refuse, then you make the same choice the Krillians made," Dr. Chen said simply, "and you receive the same educational opportunities they did." The threat was delivered so gently that it took a moment for the delegates to understand its true weight. Humanity was not requesting cooperation. They were offering it. The alternative was not negotiable. "However," Dr. Chen continued, "we prefer willing partners to reluctant students. Species that choose cooperation find us generous allies. We share technology, provide protection from aggressive neighbors, and offer access to resources throughout the galaxy." She gestured once more, and the display showed human ships. Not the primitive chemical rockets the galaxy expected, but vessels that dwarfed the largest known dreadnoughts. Ships that could phase in and out of normal space. Weapons that could reshape matter at the molecular level. Technology that made the greatest galactic empires look like children playing with sticks. "This is what we offer to our friends," Dr. Chen said, "and this is what faces our enemies." The session ended with each species facing the same choice that had confronted 43 civilizations before them. Submit to humanity's vision of galactic order, or learn why Earth had remained unconquered for 3,000 years, despite being visited by the galaxy's greatest military powers. As the delegates dispersed to contact their home governments, Elder Forthak remained behind. His crystalline form pulsed with ancient resignation as he spoke to the empty chamber. "The predecessors tried to warn us about them," he whispered. "Now I understand why they left the galaxy.